Good evening, all of you. Yesterday we had talked about the university wits, one of the important mm, part of the university Elizabethan drama. Actually, university wits are the very important part of the university. Sorry, of the Elizabethan age and specifically Elizabethan drama. And for net and set, it is considered as one of the IMP topic. So don't neglect it, go through it. It will help you to give you uh, another level satisfaction when you just complete this stage. Specifically, when you studied Christopher Marlowe and Thomas Kidd, you will find these things that how important these writers are and how one could get mm, some kind of marks, some kind of knowledge through their writing. Sometimes we find or we feel this thing that why we are studying literature. So at that time we find we must have to seek the answer of this question, why I am studying literature. So one of the reason for it, that must be a pleasure. Second thing, that you don't have anything to do rather than studying literature. And the third thing, that it took down, called as a Bard of Avon, because he was born at Stratford of Avon in English poet, the world's most profound and admired playwright. His work consists of 39 plays, 154 sonnets, and 3 long narrative poems. His plays have been translated into every major living language. Okay, so as I'm telling you that he belongs to the uh, 16th century. Still, he's getting studying in each and every major university of the world, and his plays have been translated into every major living language. So Marathi is not exception for it. We can see the translation of William Shakespeare's work in the Marathi language also. So this is a kind of formal introduction. We all know the importance of the William Shakespeare. So even I feel honored while teaching William Shakespeare to the students that I am doing a kind of great work, that I am teaching the personality which had made a long lasting impact on humankind, on a human language, on a literature. So this is this stuff which we have to discuss. So this is about Shakespeare's life. Uh, Even though Shakespeare, we know, is very famous, his life was a bit controversial. Uh, his birth, birth date, and death date, both are uncertain. Okay, and we can find a full ups and downs in his life, in his early and late career also. But yeah, he was the one who laid or make an everlasting impact on the literature. So born on April 23rd, 1564, according to the records of Stratford Holy Trinity Church, William Shakespeare was baptized on April 26, 1564, in Stratford upon Avon, England. So this is his birth, his baptism. Okay. From 1594 onwards, he was an important member of the Lord Chamberlain's main company of the theatrical players from 1594 onwards. Okay. Written records give little indication of the way in which Shakespeare's professional life molded his artistry. That is great stuff. All that can be reduced that over the course of 20 years. Shakespeare wrote plays that capture the complete range of human emotions. While studying Shakespeare, hmm, we can see the every aspect of humankind, human emotion, human conflict, again motives of uh, human life or his death, hmm, that was picturized in the different way, and he was the one who had given a birth to the too much vocabulary in the English. So as we just go and see his workings and his writing, we find that he had contributed a lot in the development of the English drama, in the development of the English literature, and specifically in the English drama. As we go forward, we see William Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway on November 20, 1582. William was 18 and Anne was 26 when they get married. And as it turns out, as it turned out pregnant, their first child, a daughter, they named Susan, was born on May 26, 1583. Okay. 2 years later, on February 2nd, 1585, twins Hamnet and Judith were born. Hamnet later died of unknown cause at the age of 11. Uh, It says that on the name of Hamnet, William Shakespeare has given the name to his play, that is Hamlet. After the birth of the twins, there are 7 years of William Shakespeare's life where no record exists. Scholars call this period the lost years. Yeah, so these 7 years of William Shakespeare's life where no record exists. So scholars called it um, lost years of his life. There were some assumptions that he had a kind of quarrel with his neighbor, and to avoid the capturing from the police, he left his village. Then there are some assumption that he worked as teacher in between. Again, there was some assumption that he worked as a page to or as a horsekeeper specifically. Horsekeeper is the special word we can say. So William Shakespeare worked as an um, horsekeeper, and eventually he had a kind of God gift to observe and just remain. That's all things in the mind, and the same thing we can find the reflection of his accurate observation power. It reflects in his works. So as we move forward, we see that it generally believed he arrived in London in the mid to late 1580s and may have found work as a horse attendant at some of the London's finest theatres. A scenario updated centuries later by the countless aspiring actors and playwrights in Hollywood and Broadway. William Shakespeare was the person that had played the different roles in his life as an actor also, and he also lived that particular life. So that's why we can find the depiction which he had made in his work was so accurate that people feel that he is just talking about these people only and about the people, and he was giving away to their emotion. म्हणून जेव्हा केव्हा त्याचं नाटक प्रदर्शित झाले, जे जे नाटक प्रदर्शित झाले, त्याचे जे प्लेज त्याचे पब्लिश झाले म्हणा किंवा परफॉर्म केले गेले, लोकांनी ते खूप डोक्यावर घेतले, कारण लोकांना ते खिळवून ठेवायचे आणि इट्स ऑलवेज गिव देम अ काइंड ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ देअर ओन लाईफ थ्रू द this play. So that's why William Shakespeare became very famous personality in the time. Uh, Tradition has it that William Shakespeare died on his birthday, April 23, 1616, though many scholars believe this is a myth. Church records show he was interred at Trinity Church on April 25, 1616. So, as I'm telling you that even though he is a very great personality, we don't even have a proper record of his life and his death also, his birth and his death also. So it's considered as a tragedy. Yeah, so the next thing I would like to present in front of you, that is Shakespeare's play. So our motive of today's lecture is to talk about William Shakespeare's plays and the language which he has used in his work, the things which he has depicted through his works. So first part we have cleared, that is we had talked about the William Shakespeare life. So Shakespeare's play, the plays written by English poet, playwright and actor William Shakespeare have the reputation of being among the greatest in the English language and in Western literature. We haven't had about this one. They have been translated into every major living language in addition to the continually performed all around the world, even today. As was common in the period, Shakespeare based many of his plays on the work of other playwrights and recycled older stories and historical material. So um, these things, this thing, some scholar take it as what we can call as, they took it as the plagiarism, today's world, in today's language we can call it as a plagiarism, but it was not. That is very common in his period. Uh, Shakespeare based many of his plays on the work of other playwrights and recycled all older stories and historical material. So the whole work, most of the work written by him, we can see it has a connection with some of the scholars or his contemporaries like University, and he recycled the older stories which were available at that time and some historical material that he used in his work. So some people, they considered this thing as the plagiarism, and some tried or they criticized William Shakespeare as uh, this secondary kind of writer because he just copied the ideas from the others. He used to think uh, that we can capturing from the others work, that was the one stuff we can find in his work, or actually it was repeatedly happened. But still, no one claimed or no one denied his contribution to the English language and the English contemporary. The bard William Shakespeare never published any of his plays, and therefore none of the original manuscripts have survived. This is the one thing I would like to pay your attention at, that in his lifetime he never published his any of his plays, scholar was very confused because of this one, and there are some assumptions why he didn't publish it. One of the assumption of it that the doing copy of the other work was very common at that time, and this is one of the major reason according to some scholars that why William Shakespeare had not published his plays at the time. Um, Therefore, none of the original manuscripts have survived. That was the one stuff. There was there is one another story that William Shakespeare was no one. He was the person who can't even sign his signature properly because we have the different versions of his Shakespeare's sign available with us into that scenario. But as we just move forward and see, we can find that he was the person uh, who claimed the writer of these plays and the one who can't sign his own signature properly. So त्यात थोडं कन्फ्युजन आहे किंवा आज पण तसं पकडलं जातात. पण मग काही थ्योरी अशी आहेत की विलियम शेक्सपियर जो होता तो म्हणजे क्रिस्टोफर मार्लोच जे होतं त्याचं एक्सटेंडेड व्हर्जन्स म्हणजे विलियम शेक्सपियर होता असं काहींचं म्हणणं आहे. किंवा विलियम शेक्सपियरने असं काही लिहिलंच नाही, त्याने फक्त कॉपीज केलं किंवा एक वेगळाच पर्सन होता अशी पण एक स्टोरी आहे. पण अगेन वी डोंट हॅव एनी प्रूफ टू दिस वन. सो ही वॉज व्हेरी कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल पर्सनॅलिटी. पण तरी पण त्याचे जे रायटिंग्स आहेत किंवा त्याच्या काही गोष्टी सगळ्या जसं आपण आज पण आपण खूप चांगल्या प्रकारे त्या सगळीकडे अभ्यासतो किंवा ते ट्रान्सलेशन होतच आलं आहे. सो ह्या गोष्टींना काही स्पेस उरत नाही. सो वी कांट डिनाय the importance of William Shakespeare in the realm of the literature. Okay. The enduring works features many famous and well-loved characters. So, characterization of William Shakespeare, that is one of the important aspect of today's date. Okay, the language used today is in many ways different to that used in the 16th century. So म्हणून हा पण एक प्रकार आहे की विलियम शेक्सपियरची जी लँग्वेज आहे ही समजणं खूप कठीण आहे. बऱ्याच लोकांना ते कळत पण नाही विलियम शेक्सपियरने जी लँग्वेज यूज केली होती. कारण yeah, he was the goat and he had used different versions of the languages in his writing. So plays were big, there was money to be made. फक्त प्लेज लिहून नंतर त्यांना पब्लिश असं नाही केलं, त्याने परफॉर्म करून विलियम शेक्सपियरने खूप जास्त पैसे कमवले. कारण त्या पिरियडमध्ये काय म्हणतो आपण मनोरंजनाचं दुसरं कुठलं साधन नव्हतं. So plays had played a very important role at that time, and they should given a more profit to the William Shakespeare. Why? Because he was the writer himself, producer himself, and he was the person who owned that, not own, but yeah, he had that much influence on the people at that time, or his workers who work the characters or the actors who worked in the theatrical section, uh, they never went against the Shakespeare. They stay with him, and that's why he was the one who had earned a lot of money through this production and writing stuff of the time. As soon as play were written, they were immediately produced. That was the another thing which we have to see. We have to talk about the William Shakespeare. So in front of us is the I would use the word anthology, the collection of the tragedy. Okay. So before moving towards the tragedy, let's check out with the have another version of his work. Over here, but it became too much problematic to go and take the lecture. I don't know what to do right now. As we know that is studying William Shakespeare is very important for us, and we have to go through this particular lecture. But the thing is, we didn't we didn't getting a good response from our board. This would be last try. After this, if we get it properly, we'll not going to study it today. We'll move or we'll change the topic. We'll study William Shakespeare again in our next lecture. This would be the last try right now. Let's say what will happen. So this would be the last try. We will give to our screen. If it will turn right, then we will continue. Otherwise, we will stop for the day. Yeah. So we are talking about the William Shakespeare. Yeah, these are the tragedies written by William Shakespeare. Hmm. These are the names: Antony and Cleopatra. Then for Linus, Hamlet, Julius Caesar, King Lear, Macbeth, Othello, Romeo and Juliet, Timon of Athens. And these are the time frames of it. Then, as we talk about the strategy of the writing, at the beginning of the play, something occurs that disrupts the normal order of things. Chaos or disorder in society results, extreme emotions are involved. So, basically, when we just see the starting of the William Shakespeare's play, specifically tragedies, first at the beginning of the play, something occurs that disrupt the normal order of things. Okay, in that case, you can take the example of mm, Othello. We know that is there is a meeting of councils we find over there, and Othello gets called. They say that we have to go for the war. One thing. Then Hamlet, we know at the starting what happened. There is a chaos, and it went through to the different points. Okay. Chaos or disorder in society results. Extreme emotions are involved. Yeah. Social restraint and disintegrate. These all things we can find in the starting of the any tragedies written by the William Shakespeare. Okay. This is the common criteria. Then social restraint disintegrate, that are the one stuff. A climax is reached usually with the death of the main character. Before order is restored, this purging of emotions that affect the audience at the end of a tragedy is sometimes referred to as catharsis. So, more in the most of the uh, scenario, we can find this catharsis kind of stuff took place. Yeah, so any tragedy which you have read, just go through it, you can find the same scenario. Okay. At the heart of each of these plays is the central character after whom the play is named. The eponymous hero, and the action is focuses on his character. Mm. The answers like Hamlet, Othello, Macbeth, King Lear. Yeah. So at the heart of each of these plays is the central character after whom the play is named, the eponymous hero, and the action is focuses on his character. Other characters are important too, and often several innocent victims are claimed before the play reaches its end. Yeah, this happened in the timeline of the play, that the characters are important too, and several innocent victims were claimed before the play reaches its end. We'll talk about it later. Then Shakespeare's comedy. So as we move forward and see the comedies written by Shakespeare, a Shakespearean comedy is one that has a happy ending, usually involving marriages between the unmarried characters, and a tone and style that is more light-hearted than Shakespeare's other plays. So it was written to delight the common audience, and in even today's scenario in Bollywood movies, we see that at the end of the movie, all goody goody things happen in the most of the movies. The same thing we can find in Shakespeare comedy. So it's the one that has a happy ending, usually involving marriages between the unmarried character, and a tone and style that is more light-hearted than Shakespeare's other plays. Shakespearean tend to comedies are tend to also include a greater emphasis on situation rather than character. This is the one thing that is a greater emphasis on situation rather than character. So the center of the work was not the characters in the tragedy or in the comedy, okay, but the situation. ते सिच्युएशन खूप महत्वाची होती कॅरेक्टरपेक्षा कॉमेडीमध्ये आणि ट्रॅजेडीजमध्ये कॅरेक्टर खूप महत्वाचं होतं सिच्युएशन आणि ते सगळं शेक्सपियर वेगवेगळ्या पद्धतीने मांडलं. You can find it in every play. So the rules which he had followed in his tragedy, he never applied it to his comedy. He had found he did find the different rules for it. A greater emphasis on the situations rather than characters. These numbers in actually it numbs the audience connection to the characters so that when characters experience misfortune, feel still the audience find it laughable. So the connection of audience, that was the another thing which he had seen or he had been through his work. A struggle of young lovers to may overcome difficulty often presented by elders. Each and every comedy we can find this thing. So there was a lover couple and they just tried to overcome the problems which had laid or made by their elders. Mm, and sometimes we can find that there is a kind of tug of war between the thought process of the elders and the uh, lovers or their struggle of young lovers. Okay, separation and reunification, that is the one of the famous part in the Shakespeare comedy. Have a look into it and you will find the all correct. Okay, these are his list of comedies. All's well that ends well, as you like it. The Comedy of Errors, Love Labor's Lost, Major for Major, The Merchant of Venice, The Merry Wives of Windsor, A Midsummer's Night Dream, Much Ado About Nothing, Pericles, Prince of the Tyre, The Taming of the Shrew, The Tempest, Twelfth Night, The Two Gentlemen of Verona, The Two Noble Kingsmen, The Winter's Tale, and Himmel in the Grave. Yeah. So these are the list of comedies, and it each had the different storyline, different characters, but yeah, still audience feel to connect with it. Yeah, let's move and talk about the Shakespeare's history. These are the names which had written by the William Shakespeare: King John, Edward III, Richard II, Henry IV Part 1, Henry IV Part 2, Henry VI Part 1, Henry VI Part 2, Part 3, Richard III, Richard the till 8. Okay, so this is the Shakespeare's history. These are his problem comedies or dark comedies, tragicomedy, or he called it as a problem play. Troilus and Cressida, all's well that ends well, and Major for the Major. Uh, the features of this tragicomedy are tragedy and comedy are combined together, but the end is happily, they end happily. So um, character find what they want or what they're looking for in their work. A dark tone and flawed characters are typical of these days. The aim is to disturb the audience as they raise the darker side of the human nature. Yeah, so in tragicomedies we have a dark tone and flawed characters. They are typical of these days. The aim is to disturb the audience as they raise the darker side of the human nature. It is said that he was experimenting with a dramatic form which brought together comedy and tragedy, that is tragicomedy. This experiment into the romance play. Before moving towards the William Shakespeare sonnet, let's talk about his later work. Shakespeare's tragedies often hinge on a fatally flawed character or system. There is a flaw ultimately resulting in death or destruction. Death or destruction. So scholar divided the plays into periods. A first period tragedy from 1590 to 94 is Titus Andronicus. Shakespeare's greatest tragedies come from his second and third period. Okay. In the third period, Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, Macbeth, Antony, and Cleopatra. All are the greatest of all time kind of plays. Titus Andronicus first performed in 1594, printed in 90. Romeo and Juliet 1594-95, Hamlet 1601, Julius Caesar, Othello, Antony, Cleopatra, King Lear, Coriolanus, Timon of Athens, and Macbeth. Before moving towards William Shakespeare, uh, sonnet, I would like to Shakespeare sonnet. Shakespeare published 154 sonnets originally, published in 1609 in a quarto folio by Thomas Thorpe, expected to be written during 1592 to 90. Sonnet 138 and 144 had previously published in 1599, Miss Lenny, The Passionate Pilgrim. There was an anthology. As you just go forward and see, the first 17 sonnets are called procreation sonnets. These are addressed to a young man, urging him to marry and have children in order to immortalize his beauty by passing it to the next generation. Okay. Sonnet 18 to 126 are called fair youth sonnets. The other sonnets express the speaker's love for a young man, brood upon loneliness, death, and the transience of life. And from sonnets 1 to 126 are probably dedicated to Mr. W. H. That is William Herbert, Earl of Pembroke, or Henry Wrottesley, Earl of Southampton. Worcester is also the uh, dedicatee of Shakespeare's poem Venus and Adonis and Rape of Lucrece. From 127 to 152 are dedicated to Dark Lady. So in sonnet 114, she is described as the my female evil and my bad angel. She is identified as a Aline Florio, or Lucy Morgan, a fallen woman also called Lucy Negro of Emilia. So these sonnets are called Dark Lady sonnets. The poet speaks of this mysterious and beautiful mistress who had black hair and raven black eyes. Uh, Sonnet 153 and 154. These two sonnets are dedicated to Cupid, god of love, and rhyme theme of the sonnets are ABAB, CDCD, EFEFGG, to whom which we call as a Shakespearean sonnet or Shakespearean sonnet style. Mm, Sonnet 1, from fairest creature we desire increase. That's one of the famous sonnet. Sonnet 18, shall I compare thee to summer's day? That was another famous sonnet by him. Um, then sonnet 30, went to the stations of sweet silent thought. Uh, Sonnet 33, full many a glorious morning have I seen. Sonnet 104, that is another famous one. To me, fair friend, you never can be old. And about the yes, sonnet is the one who had written a different place. We had seen this place. We talked about it. We also talked about his sonnet, but even today we can't neglect his importance in the history of English literature. Bit more about him. William Shakespeare was actor, writer, and part owner of the playing company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men, later known as the King's Men. Shakespeare produced most of his known works between 1589 to 1613. Until about 1608, he wrote mainly tragedies, among them Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth, all considered to be among the four finest works in a English language. In 1623, yeah, this is the point I would like to make over here, that two fellow actors and friends of Shakespeare, John Ning and Henry Condell, published a more definitive text known as the First Folio, a posthumous collected edition of Shakespeare's dramatic work that include all but two of his plays. Two volumes was prefaced with a poem by Ben Jonson, in which Jonson precisely hailed Shakespeare in a now famous quote as a not of an age but of all time, not of age but of all time. Uh, the second folio of Shakespeare's play uh, is the 1632 edition of the collected plays of Shakespeare, and it follows first folio of 1623. Much language was updated in second folio, and there are almost 1700 changes. Okay, all folio is a term that Shakespeare's scholars and bibliographers have applied to William Jaggett's printing of 10 Shakespearean and pseudo-Shakespearean plays together in 1619, the first attempt to collect Shakespeare's works in a single volume. Then, 19 of Shakespeare's plays first appeared in for to be for the publication of the first volume in 1623. 18 of those before his death in 1616, one play co-authored with John Fletcher, The Two Noble Kingsmen, was first published in 1634, and one play first published in the first folio, The Taming of the Shrew, was later published in quarto. William Shakespeare died on 23rd April 1616, and to honor this, UNESCO established 23rd April as the International Day of the Book. The next thing I would like to tell you that the criticism on Shakespeare. Ben Jonson criticized Shakespeare as he, he redeemed his vice with his virtue. There was even more in him to be praised than to be pardoned. He was not of an age but for all time. So all of us we have an idea about this one. Even today we find that the importance of the Shakespeare was not end, and we find that his dedication, his uh, contribution to the English language was more appreciated than any others. John Milton wrote a sonnet titled O Shakespeare in 1630. It starts with, what needs my Shakespeare for his honored bones? The labor of an age is piled stone, or that his hallowed relics should be hid. In another line, dear son of memory, great heir of fame. That is this thing which John Milton talks about the Shakespeare. John Dryden said about the Shakespeare in his Age of Dramatic Poesy as what he says, to begin then with Shakespeare, he was the man who of all modern and perhaps ancient poets had the largest and most comprehensive soul. So there is a list of writers who talked about the William Shakespeare and his works, his folio. So I hope that we had done with the William Shakespeare and had talked about him, as there are some technical glitches you can find very difficult to go in a linear state, but still we had completed our task. So if you have any question about the Shakespeare, please feel free to ask. And uh, while coming to the next lecture, we'll try to talk about him a bit, and we'll move forward to talk about uh, the other writers who belong to his contemporaries or who come after the William Shakespeare. So hope everything which you have seen, you have studied, whatever I have tried to convey you, it is reached to you. Any questions, feel free to ask. So विलियम शेक्सपियर फक्त एक व्यक्ती नव्हता, तर ती एक पूर्ण सिस्टम होती की ज्याने सगळ्या गोष्टी चेंज केल्या. ठीक आहे. इवन विलियम शेक्सपियरचे कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन होते इंग्लिश लँग्वेजसाठी ते खूपच म्युझिकल आहे. आपण बघू शकतो अजून पण की शेक्सपियरबद्दल किती बोललं जातं, किती लिहिलं जातं, किती काही झालं शेक्सपियर. पण तरी पण शेक्सपियरची जी लोकप्रियता आहे ती थोडी पण कमी झाली. Each and every major language of the world it has been translated, and every good universities in William Shakespeare speaking. Okay. Still, we can find the stuff that the William Shakespeare has some negative connotations also, but he was the one who enriched the English language, English speaking, and the force of the English society. When you talk about his sonnets also, they were so accurate that after 154 sonnets written by William Shakespeare, English sonnets were get the name after him, that is the Shakespearean sonnet. They were dedicated to two persons. One is W.H. and the second is the Dark Lady. We have an idea about this stuff also, who is this Dark Lady and who is this W.H. In history has given the answer of this question, but as we move forward and try to find out Shakespeare's contribution to the English language, it was inevitable and it was marvelous stuff which we have seen. So as we just move forward, how to see his contribution at that time. Okay, the theaters, the Globe Theatre, or the Kingsman company which he derived or he was run at that he run at that time. That was the another thing or another level of satisfaction for studying Shakespeare is the great thing. Understanding him, that is another level of satisfaction. Go read his plays, at least summary, or try to find out his characterization, his phrasing, his the words he has used, and that will delight your reading also. So we'll stop for the day. While coming next lecture, we'll try more about the Elizabethan prose.